The police arrested notorious drug trafficker Sukhwinder Singh, who had been absconding for a long time now. He was caught with drugs worth rupees 36 lakhs, an illegal firearm and cash. The accused has several cases registered against him under the NDPS Act and the Arms Act. A deadly blaze broke out in a 4-story building in Delhi's Sangam Vihar. Fire tenders were on the spot to douse the fire. The fire claimed the lives of 4 people. Authorities said that at least 2 others had been injured in the building fire. The police are now investigating the matter. Shifting our focus to now, breaking news now coming in. The India-United Kingdom Joint Military Exercise Ajaya Warrior 25 concluded today at the Mahajan Field Firing Ranges in Rajasthan after a fortnight of intensive training focused on counter-terrorism operations in semi-urban terrain under the UN mandate. A total of 240 personnel from both armies participated in the 8th edition of the exercise. Troops of the Indian Army's Sikh Regiment and the United Kingdom's Army's Royal Gurkha Rifles underwent the joint tactical drills, combat conditioning, heliborne operations, room intervention and cordon and search exercises. Alongside operational discussions and planning sessions, the validation phase showcased high level of precision and jointmanship achieved by both contingents. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap on this edition of Live and Breaking News, and updates continue. For now, it's time for us to slip into a short break.
दादी के हाथों का जादू और खुशबू से महकता घर, माँ की मुस्कुराहट और खाने की सुगंध। MDH गरम मसाला,
क्योंकि हर रिश्ता है स्वाद से जुड़ा। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो, मिलाओ और खाओ।
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा हार्डकोर मसाला। MDH की हल्दी मिर्ची धनिया करे कमाल। ये रंग दे, ये खुशबू दे, ये तीखा, ये कम पड़े। क्या निराला MDH मसाला।
So in the past, we would see most of the terrorists who would get arrested, they would be like the people who would be working at a very low level. But today we have seen the white collar suspect.
कश्मीर घाटी में डॉक्टर्स एक बहुत अल्टीमेट ड्रीम होता है वहां के लड़के लड़कियों का। उस बनने के बावजूद अगर आप रेडिकलाइज होकर अपने ही देशवासियों को मारने के लिए और अपने देश को तोड़ने के लिए तैयार हो सकते हैं, तो आप अंदाजा लगाइए किस तरह की रेडिकलाइजेशन हो रही है और इस फ्रंट पे हम क्या काम कर रहे हैं।
Investigators have identified Maulvi Irfan Wagha, also known as Imam Irfan, from Shopian in South Kashmir, as the mastermind who blended his dual identity, that of a preacher and healthcare worker, to influence and radicalize the educated youth.
The accusation against him is completely baseless. He had been there for 7 years, offering prayers, conducting religious classes, and teaching children at the religious center. He would come only occasionally.
We had no idea about the allegations against him, but we don't believe them. He is a good person. We don't know anything else.
According to the ongoing investigation, Maulvi used his access at GMC Srinagar and his sermons in Naugam's local mosques to identify and influence those he saw as easy targets, pushing them towards radicalization. He used social media to radicalize highly qualified professionals. During the questioning, Irfan admitted to the police that he had radicalized Dr. Muzammil Shakil, who is the key accused of Faridabad Arms Hall.
According to the officials, Imam Irfan allegedly built and expanded a white-collar terror network with the help of Pak-based Jaish handler Umar bin Khattab, alias Harjula. The police found improvised explosive devices materials, electronic gadgets during raid at his residence, providing leads to a wider nexus. The investigation continues, with agencies coordinating across Delhi, Haryana, and Jammu and Kashmir to uncover how this white-collar network expanded under the guise of faith and medicine.
The next session features the stalwart of India's finance service industry. Mr. Sundeep Sikka is here between us, the Executive Director and CEO of Nippon India Mutual Fund, a leader who has built investor trust through innovation and consistency. He represents the spirit of India's growing financial inclusion.
Mr. Sikka, it's lovely to have you here with us. We were just listening to the minister, and he just made a very important statement that India is on the move, and every Indian, through his or her own pocket, is betting big on the India story through mutual funds. So I have the right man in front of me. He is one of the driving forces, not just behind Nippon, but even AMFI, that's the Mutual Fund Association. So the right man to ask questions on all our mutual fund investment related matters. Mr. Sikka, I want to get started. The whole SIP revolution that we've seen over the past about a decade or so, right now we're standing at about 75 lakh crore assets under management in mutual fund and over 5 crore investors. What do you think is the driving factor behind the confidence that the Indian investor is showing in mutual funds?
So Pranav, Arnab and Republic TV, thanks for having me here. I think I remember last time also being here, but I think one thing, first I should say thanks for the lovely video that you showed about me. And one thing that I realized was the growth of the mutual fund industry AUM and my hairline are going in the inverse direction. So that's that's on the lighter side. But I think let me start by highlighting the fact that it's today a very interesting point. It's a great moment to be. It's a time where every proud Indian is basically, looking at the bright future of the country. And as you saw in the morning, Mr. Amitabh Kant, and earlier before this, the minister talking about, we're at a time where I think India, we are moving from a fragile 5 to the top 5. And today what is happening is the most interesting time where I think every average Indian is through mutual funds, through SIPs, investing in India growth story. This had never happened before. So what is happening is, let me again go back to, I think a lot of us discussed about starting from 2014. Way back in 2014, at that point of time, mutual fund industry size was about 11 lakh crores. And today we are about 80 lakh crores. At that point of time, SIPs were less than 2,000 crores. Today we are 30,000 crores. So what is happening is, I think there are two things happening at the same time. First, I think what we should say, the growth that is happening, why it is happening. Average investor is always very smart. He will only invest if he has confidence in something. For decades after decades, after independence, they had confidence in bank deposit, they had confidence in gold, and they invested in that. Today, this is changing India. Average Indian is having confidence in the India growth story, and that's why they are investing in mutual funds, investing through SIPs. But what is also very important to understand, it's mutual fund industry cannot do anything in isolation. The India growth story is all about, as a lot of initiatives that were discussed, in the morning, the first video which mentioned about Prime Minister talking about from being the 10th largest to being the third, moving towards the third largest. I think what is critical, a lot of foundation has been created in the last 10, 15 years. So let me give you an example. The Jan Dhan that was talked by the minister before this, that got the formalization of the economy where we saw 50 to 60 crore new bank accounts getting opened. Then after that, we had basically the Aadhaar, we had the digital. All these things have actually helped the mutual fund industry grow. But the biggest thing that is happening, which we need to, each of us is proud of, is today, I think investment behavior happens over generations. And today, Indians are investing in capital markets, and from a data point of view, what was basically less than 1% of household savings were coming into capital markets. Today, it's about 7%. So it's a big change, but it's all about, not only about as mutual fund industry, we can take, a lot of, pat on the back we have done, but it's a function of country doing well, the economy doing well, Indians having confidence in the Indian economy, Indian capital markets, and a lot of rules that have been redefined by Jan Dhan and digital.
Yes. We have a lot of youngsters here. I mean, one of the most crucial debates at home is why invest in mutual funds? Wo to risky hai. FDs are better. What do you think is better? If there is one advice you would have to give to everybody who wants to invest here, is what is better, FD or mutual fund, and what is good for India?
So let me, you said why mutual fund? I say why not mutual fund? Okay. My question is the other way around. Today, for years and years, we've been investing in real estate, gold, bank deposit. I mean, all these things everything has a particular part that should be part of the asset allocation. But from a long-term point of view, what you have to see is, FD has its own limitation, and I'm not here to de-sell anything or try to propose anything. But what you have to understand is, from a FD point of view, I think you will be getting whatever 6, 7, 8% return, the fixed return. But you cannot contribute to the India growth story. If you have to contribute to the India growth story, you have to participate in and get the upside from it. That will come through the equity capital markets. And if you have to come to equity capital markets, all youngsters here and all of us have a day job. I think all of us cannot do those investments ourselves. And that's where mutual fund industry plays a very big role. So for me, it's a time where we have to say, why not mutual fund? And it's the whole environment is changing, where it used to say mutual fund is subject to market risk. The environment is now changing to mutual funds sahi hai.
But what happens when the marketing department, so to say, oversell mutual funds promising higher returns? I really want to ask you, are the days of superlative returns in mutual funds really over? Will we still see double-digit returns in mutual funds? What is the way forward? What is the kind of expectation that every new investor should have when he enters the mutual fund or the wealth route via mutual funds?
No, I do not. The superlative is relative. I think if somebody has seen last 5 years, he may see it differently. Someone who invested 1 year back, we may see differently. But let's step back a little. You had the minister and before the economist who talked about India, we are expecting the GDP today 7%. Can we touch 10% also? Today, all this is a function of how India grows. If India is growing at 7, 8%, 9%, nominal GDP will grow at 12, 15, 16%. I mean, there is no reason why investors should not expect double-digit returns. But superlative, returns, again, this, like I said, we have to all understand one thing. Anything where you have extraordinary returns, you are also taking extraordinary risk. So from a mutual funds point of view, and specifically mutual funds are not only about equity. Mutual funds are also about fixed income, gold and other things. So from our point of view, as long as India grows at 6, 7, 8%, you will continue getting double-digit returns.
One of the terms that has been doing the rounds of internet for a long time is FIRE, that is financial independence, retire early. Would you advocate for mutual funds as that one instrument of retiring early or getting the financial independence? How should people go about looking at that and about investing in mutual funds from that aim?
Well, it's a very interesting question. I think even if we leave aside the FIRE part, I think let's look at the other way around. Today in India, the average longevity is increasing. I think with the better medical facilities, I think we heard the minister talk about the medical facilities, better facilities for everybody. With that, what happens is if after independence, the average expected age was 55, 60. It was still 10 years back, it was 65, 70. Today it will move up to 80. People in Japan, I represent a Japanese company where the highest number of people who live above the age of 100. Now look at this, it's not just about retirement. There's a period when you earn. So all of us will earn till a particular age, 55, 60, 65. Earlier what was happening, you were earning till a particular age, and after that how much you live would be just 10, 12 years. Now you'll be in non-productive years when you will not be earning. I mean, that could be 25, 30, 40 years. Now, what that does is basically, India also has one of the lowest, people working in the organized sector who are covered. They're not covered in the organized pension schemes. So mutual funds helps you secure your long-term future through, it is not only about retirement, but anything else, anything to do with long-term goals. Retirement is one of them. So mutual fund allows every Indian to save money, generate wealth, and also retire safely.
Where do you invest your money, sir?
My 100% of my financial assets are in mutual funds, and 99.99999% are only in Nippon India Mutual Fund.
But then if there's somebody here who may have a question, sir. I can do an F&O trading. I have margin facility available. I can buy a nifty lot for as less as probably 3,000 rupees. Just stay on it and earn huge returns. Why not go to F&O? Why not do day trading, and why choose mutual funds?
No, I think I take it the other way around. I love this. This is the question which comes many times, and we do a lot of these road shows, investor education. A lot of time people come back and say, "Aapka mutual fund bahut boring hai. It's a very boring industry. 10 saal lagao, 20 saal. There's no action. It's very boring." But the reality is, SEBI had come with this data some time back, where 9 out of 10 people who invested in F&O lost money. Now, I think I personally feel, it's very important for all of us to understand that when you're putting your long-term money, your money which your hard-earned money to the market, how can you put it as such a risky instrument? So I think at no point of time there cannot be anything better than mutual funds or capital markets. And when I say this, it is also a feeling of pride, because through mutual fund indirectly, you're also helping. Where does the mutual fund invest? Mutual fund is investing in companies, fast-growing companies and all that, which also helps the country grow. And so I think from F&O and all, I think I don't understand that. And I would also request everybody not to get carried away with these high returns. SEBI has always, SEBI, RBI says invest in regulated products. Recently, there was a lot of about the digital gold, which the SEBI also came. So I think it's very critical not to get carried away with all these products.
Realistically, sir, looking at the mutual fund returns, the whole argument in the financial world or the investment world is how soon can you double your money? Realistically asking, how soon can any individual double his money in India through the mutual fund route?
I think SEBI has this rule, you cannot make a futuristic, statement. So I won't say that. But I'll just try to come back to, it's a function of the economy doing well. As long as the corporate earnings are increasing, you will see mutual funds giving returns. So, but let me give you a data point which will help you to understand better, because I cannot talk about future, but I can definitely talk about past. One of the funds, which is the flagship funds of the industry, which was launched in 1995, 1 lakh rupee invested, today is 4 crore rupees. But 4 crore does not mean anything, because many times people in the compounding cannot understand what does that mean. So let me decode it. So if somebody had invested in that fund 10,000 rupees, and Pranav, you'll understand 10,000 is not a very big amount. 10,000 rupees a month, if it was invested since 1995, what you would have invested would be about 30 lakh rupees. And today the value of that fund is about 40 crore rupees. 27 crore rupees. 27 crore rupees. Now this is the power of compounding when it happens from a long-term point of view. And to your question, a lot of people, who expect superlative returns, they need to be invested for a longer period of time. That is the most important message. You cannot expect high returns by investing for a shorter period of time. So I think that's the message I want to give. If you want to expect high returns, you want to create wealth creation, you need to be invested for a longer period of time.
Mr. Sikka, while one looking at the past, we feel confident that okay, wow, there is an assurance, there are certain returns that we can expect from the funds we are invested in. But at the same time, we are also hearing of scams where just yesterday an individual who'd invested his money lost 35 crore on digital scam. When we look at that, that's a kind of a deterrent probably for an investor. What are some things that we need to keep in mind as investors to ensure that our money invested is safe? How do we ensure that the advisor we are trusting, the agency we are investing through is a reliable agency? What are some of the tips that you would want to give to everybody sitting here?
Well, I think you talked about past is past, but we didn't look at future. Actually, sitting here since morning, I'm more confident about the future of India after hearing Mr. Goyal and Mr. Amitabh Kant. And again, that is, if this is the future of India, I think there's no reason why Indians will not make more wealth through mutual funds. I think that is point number one. Number two, I think to your point, I think one thing is very clear. You will have regulated products and you'll have irregulated products, I think, and from your point of view, I think I also read this article yesterday about somebody getting, losing 35 crore rupees. I think it's very important for an average investor, even educated investors, savvy investors to understand you have to deal with regulated entities. I mean, you will always get this thing, the lure, that there is something called, I think, let's go back many years back, there used to be chit funds and all that stuff. So you cannot get carried away with that. And I think from our point of view, I think while we talked a lot about the future and talked about the mutual fund industry, let me give you a little different perspective. Because asset management is not only mutual fund. We represent being a Japanese company, I deal with a lot of Japanese institutional investors. The interest of global investors to invest in India is just increasing. It's not only increasing in capital markets, it's not only increasing in equities, bonds, real estate, but startups. I think there's no reason for us to understand, I think, and get this confidence. If global investors are looking at India, why should average Indian in small citizen towns not look at investing into Indian capital markets through mutual funds?
Mm-hmm. If I have to ask you, I mean, I have an investor in front of me right now, so I have to ask this question. What are some of the sectors that you as an investor are bullish on over the next 5 years? You were just talking about the India story. What are some of the sectors that you are betting big on?
I think we can go on and on various sectors, because India is not one market, it's a micro market. I mean, there are so many sectors, but anything to do with domestic consumption. I think we heard in the morning the minister and before this Mr. Khan talk about world over the industry, countries are moving to, protectionism. I think the borders are getting closed, the trade deals are getting closed. So what is happening? Our biggest asset is our population, our demographics, our domestic consumption. Today we are not a country. It's a country where you have 140 crore investors, 140 crores consumers, 140 crores savers, 140 crores investors. I mean, there are not many countries in the world which do that. But the common theme in all these is domestic consumption.
Right. I'm going to ask you two quick questions. One, we are a country obsessed with gold. I mean, if average Indian household just decides to sell their jewelry, there could probably be, all our gold problems could probably be solved given the kind of demand that gold is currently witnessing. If I have to ask you, what is your choice between mutual fund and gold? What's that instrument that you, I mean, I know the obvious answer, but the reasons probably.
Maybe I'll get you wrong, you don't know the obvious answer.
Okay.
It is gold through mutual funds.
Okay.
And why I say this, and I'm not trying to, I think again, what we have to understand is, I mean, today, over the years, the obsession for gold is very high. And I can forget any investor, I cannot convince my wife not to buy gold, because gold is something, it comes as an inherent thing, and everybody wants to buy it. And fortunately, over the years, the returns have been superlative. So I think every hypothesis goes wrong. But what we have to understand is, if the same gold can be bought and the returns can be got through the electronic mode, which is through the gold funds and the gold ETF, I think that is what changes everything. And let me give you another data point, how Indians are changing. Now, we were always very superstitious about gold. We have Dhanteras, Diwali time, people buy physical gold. Over the last 5 years, the trend is changing. More Indians are buying gold on the stock exchange, through ETFs. So 5 years back, on a Diwali day, Dhanteras and Diwali day, what was bought was 50 crore rupees. Next year was 100 crore rupees. The next year was 125 crore rupees. And this year was 500 crore rupees. So 500 crore rupees of gold bought on an auspicious day tells you how India is changing. And the other option, so to your question, I am a great believer in gold, but gold as an asset allocation, not as an investor. So it should be a part of every portfolio, but I think I'll prefer gold through mutual funds.
Okay. Another, Nippon was in fact one of the pioneers in ETS, that is exchange traded funds, which are passively managed. What is your personal choice, passive or active?
Let me, here I'll move away from myself, but more as a CEO of a company. I think what we believe is as an asset management company, you need to provide both. There are investors who like active, there are investors who like passive. And it's like saying many times, I think all of us, we go for homeopathic also medicine and allopathic also. So what happens, there are times you keep changing. So there will be a core thing that will be basically can be done through active fund. There can also be a certain part which can be done through passive. And we are no one to decide. It's like then as an asset management company, we are a supermarket. I think we will offer everything. But I want to just tell you one thing. This debate is a little it's not warranted because globally, both of them have coexisted for decades and decades. I think in India, we've always been a very active, more active funds. So this is a new debate that is happening. You look at the most matured markets in the world, both active and passive are coexisted. And I feel in India also, both will coexisting for many more decades.
Okay. Mr. Sikka, India's mutual fund investor base is increasing, and even more and more investors are coming in from smaller towns, not just metros. To include this as well as one final advice that you would want to give, to everybody here to use mutual fund as an investment, what would that advice be?
No, I think I'd like to just touch it's a very valid thing. We have investors from small cities and towns, and the trend is changing. And since you touched this point, mutual fund industry was always blamed that it is all basically more concentrating on the bigger cities and towns, bigger cities. The trend is changing. I think today we see more investors are coming from smaller cities and towns. Recently, we opened our first branch in Leh. Now, Leh has a population of, effectively 400,000 people, 300,000 people. Out of that, 3 lakh people are only armed forces. Now, imagine today a place where it's difficult to breathe. I think what we are trying to see is, we're trying to go and sell mutual funds and get this culture in small cities and towns. So from our point of view, I think the advice to whether it's a small town or a big town, but for all investors, make the first step. Start investing. Don't wait. I think there's nothing called like we say in health. I think you have to take the first step and you have to be consistent. You have to be disciplined. You have to keep investing. It cannot happen that one day you invest and then you forget. And then when you see the markets going up, you in cash and then you say, "Ho gaya bas mera." But the reality is, I think we have to invest for decades. And I think today when I invest, I think I can tell you one thing. You asked about me as an investor. I only invested in mutual funds, but more importantly, I've never withdrawn any money from mutual fund.
Oh, really?
Because the logic is very simple. I think if I don't need money, if I don't want to time the market, I will keep investing for long term. It is all for a particular goal. Goal could be my daughter's wedding. Goal could be education of my children. I've never ever withdrawn the money. I've never got carried away with how the markets behave. Because the reality is, in spite of being whatever, we managed today 7 lakh crores. But the reality is, even I do not know how to time the market. So my advice to every investor will be, don't try to time the market. You'll go wrong. Just be patient. It's more like a test match in this world of T20. It's like a test match. Tuk is boring. But that's the only way to create wealth.
So is that the golden rule to wealth creation?
That's the only way for wealth creation.
To stay invested for a long duration.
Stay invested for a long thing, and don't let your biases come into it. Now, don't take me wrong when I say sitting in a media, a company. Many times there's a lot of noise. Markets have gone up. Ab kya karna? Kuch nahi karna. Baithe raho bas. ठीक है ना? Ignore whenever the market goes up or market goes down. Ignore that. Keep your emotions out. I think the best way is basically in the morning. Minister gave this example of Onida, owner's envy, neighbor's envy, owner's pride. Yeah. I'll go back to the Hero Honda campaign, which used to be fill it and forget it. I think just that's the way it should be for the mutual funds.
Wonderful, Mr. Sikka. Thank you very much. It was lovely having you with us. Thank you.
सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा हार्डकोर मसाला।
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
आधे बाउल दही में 4 चम्मच MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला डाला, स्टर करो, पुदीना चटनी तैयार। MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला।
China and Japan are clashing verbally over Taiwan. Tensions between China and Japan have risen over Taiwan's security. Japan has signaled it may intervene in a potential conflict, viewing it as a threat to its own stability. China condemned this as meddling, issuing strong warnings and summoning diplomats. This conflict started when Japan's newly appointed Prime Minister, Sanae Takaichi, issued a direct warning to China during a session of the country's parliament. She stated that a conflict in the Taiwan Strait could represent a survival-threatening situation for Japan, implying that Tokyo might need to intervene militarily to protect its interests. This marked a bold escalation in Japan's stance on the Taiwan issue, signaling readiness to support Taiwan against potential Chinese action. Takaichi's comments, delivered amid rising regional tensions, prompted an immediate and sharp rebuke from Beijing, highlighting the fragile balance in East Asia and the risk of broader confrontation.
The remarks made by the Japanese leader on Taiwan constitute an interference in China's internal affairs and a serious violation of the One China principle and the basic norms governing international relations. Such words are extremely irresponsible and dangerous in nature and have caused very negative impact.
Taiwan is an island of 23 million people, situated about 100 miles off China's southeast coast. China regards it as a breakaway province under the One China principle, insisting that other countries acknowledge this and avoid treating Taiwan as a sovereign state. Taiwan, however, maintains its own government, conducts elections, and runs an independent economy, a setup rooted in 1949 when China's civil war concluded with the defeated nationalist forces retreating to the island while the communists consolidated power on the mainland. This division has persisted without full-scale war, but mutual distrust has grown. China has intensified its military presence around Taiwan in recent years, viewing reunification as a national goal. For instance, in October this year, H-6K bombers from the People's Liberation Army Air Force conducted flights over the island, while June exercises involved over 70 aircraft, including J-16 fighters and unmanned drones, crossing the median line of the Taiwan Strait. Naval operations have featured Type 052D destroyers and Type 054A frigates patrolling the waters. Beijing frames these as defensive drills to deter independence moves.
Japan claims to be a peace-loving nation, yet the Takaichi administration has made vague and ambiguous remarks. China is seriously concerned about Japan's recent military and security developments.
In turn, the United States supplies Taiwan with arms like Patriot missiles and F-16 jets, offering security commitments without formal recognition. Allies, such as Japan, provide indirect support through joint exercises and intelligence sharing. Japan's warning stems from its proximity and vulnerabilities. The Taiwan Strait lies just 70 miles from Japan's southern islands, serving as a vital choke point for global trade. An estimated $5 trillion in goods pass through annually, including oil, electronics, and raw materials. Japan-Taiwan bilateral trade hit $72.3 billion in 2024, with Japan exporting $38.5 billion in machinery and chemicals, while importing $33.8 billion.
First year when I went to Shark Tank, I was not an investor. I didn't know how investment happens, what do investors look at, because I was busy building boat.
Correct.
I was busy building my company.
Which is a good thing.
And suddenly, the Shark Tank came in and I was supposed to be on the chair.
Yeah.
So it was very easy for me making decisions. I didn't know Excel sheets. Sir, even today, I don't care about Excel sheets.
I love that. I just love it. I think many great ideas can end with an Excel